The alarm bells rang through the council station with a sound that made every alien present freeze in fear. Zixthor's tentacles shook as he stared at his screen. His three eyes widened in horror at what the sensors were showing him. A human ship had just crossed the boundary line. For 150 years, humans had stayed in their small corner of space. The council had made the rules very clear. Humans were not allowed to leave their home system. They were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too wild. Now someone had broken that law. Zixthor pressed the emergency button with one trembling tentacle. Within minutes, council members from across the galaxy began appearing on the communication screens. Their faces showed the same fear that Zixthor felt in his hearts. "This cannot be happening," said Kritok, the council chairman. His scaled face turned a dark shade of purple, which meant he was very worried. "Show me the ship." The image appeared on every screen. It was a small vessel, nothing like the military ships the council had expected humans might build. This looked like a civilian transport ship. The name on the side read Wanderer, in human letters. "How did they get past our detection grid?" asked one council member, her voice high with panic. Zixthor checked his readings again. "The ship is using some kind of new engine design. Our sensors did not see it until it was already outside the restricted zone." Inside the Wanderer, Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair with a smile on his face. He was a tall man, with brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too many years of following rules he didn't believe in. Next to him, Lisa Grant worked at the engineering station. Her red hair was tied back, as she watched the engine readings carefully. "We did it," Jake said quietly. "We're actually outside the zone." Lisa looked up from her screen and grinned. "The new drive works perfectly. They never saw us coming. All those years of work finally paid off." Behind them, the rest of the crew celebrated. Danny Price, the young navigator, let out a cheer. Karen Mills, the ship's doctor, hugged the person next to her. There were 32 people on the ship, all volunteers who had agreed to leave everything behind for a chance at freedom. Jake stood up and turned to face his crew. "Listen up, everyone. We knew this moment would come. The council will be looking for us now. They'll send ships to bring us back or destroy us. We need to decide right now if we keep going or turn around." The celebration stopped. Everyone knew what they had signed up for, but hearing it out loud made it real. "I say we keep going," said Danny. He was only 23 years old, the youngest person on the ship. "We didn't come this far to give up now. The council quarantined us like we were some kind of disease," Lisa added. "But we're not dangerous. We're just people who want to explore and build new lives." "I vote we continue." One by one, each crew member raised their hand to vote for moving forward. Jake felt proud of them. They were brave, all of them. Back at the council station, the emergency meeting continued. Krytok watched as more and more council members joined the call. He had been the one to sign the restriction order 150 years ago. He remembered the chaos of first contact with humans. The humans had been so excited to meet other intelligent species, but they didn't follow protocols. They asked too many questions. They wanted to explore everywhere, touch everything, learn about things the council preferred to keep hidden. And worst of all, they adapted too quickly. Within just a few years, humans had learned technologies that took other species centuries to develop. The council had been scared. They made a decision to lock humanity away in their home system until the council could figure out what to do with them. That temporary solution had lasted for 150 years. "We must send our fleet immediately," said one council member, a tall being made of crystalline structures. "If we let one ship escape, others will follow." "Perhaps we should try to communicate with them first," suggested another member. "They may not know they are breaking the law." Kritok shook his head. "Humans know the law very well. This is an act of rebellion. We must respond with strength." "Commander Velshar, how quickly can you mobilize your ships?" On another screen, Commander Velshar appeared. He was a Kresh warrior, with 4 arms and silver skin covered in battle scars. His species had served as the Council's military force for thousands of years. "My fleet can be ready in 3 hours, Chairman," Velshar said in his deep voice. "What are your orders?" Kratok thought for a moment. "Intercept the human ship. Try to convince them to return peacefully. If they refuse..." He paused, not wanting to say the words. "If they refuse, you have permission to disable their vessel and bring them back by force." Velshar nodded, but something in his eyes showed doubt. He had always followed orders without question, but something about this mission felt wrong to him. These were civilians, not enemy soldiers. As the council meeting ended, Thor continued monitoring the human ship. Suddenly, his screen showed something new. More human ships were leaving the restricted zone. 3 more vessels had just crossed the boundary, all heading in the same direction as the Wanderer. "Chairman!" Thor called out in panic. "We have more ships. Humans are leaving the zone in multiple locations." Kratok felt his blood run cold. This was not just one rebel ship. This was the beginning of something bigger. The humans were not asking for permission anymore. They were taking their freedom. On the Wanderer, Jake received a message from an unknown source. The communication came through on a frequency that should have been impossible for anyone outside the council to use. Lisa traced the signal but found nothing. Jake opened the message. It was short and written in human language. "Keep going. The truth lies ahead. The council is not what they seem. Seek the Pioneer." The Pioneer. Jake knew that name. It was a human colony ship that had disappeared 50 years ago. The council had said it was destroyed in an accident, but there were always rumors that something else had happened. "Lisa, set course deeper into unexplored space," Jake ordered. "We're going to find out what really happened to the Pioneer." As the Wanderer jumped to faster than light speed, Commander Velshar's fleet launched from the council station. The chase had begun. Neither humans nor the council knew that this was about to change the galaxy forever. Commander Velshar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Judgment. Around him, dozens of crew members worked at their stations, preparing the fleet for the mission. His 4 arms moved across different control panels as he checked the readiness of his ships. "All vessels report ready for jump, Commander," said his first officer, a young Kresh named Naltek. Velshar nodded. "Take us into human territory. Find that ship." The fleet of 30 warships jumped through space, traveling faster than light toward the location where the Wanderer had been detected. Velshar had fought in many battles during his long career. He had faced pirates, rebels, and dangerous creatures from unknown space. But he had never fought humans before. Everything he knew about humans came from old council reports. They were supposed to be aggressive and dangerous. But when he looked at the image of the Wanderer on his screen, all he saw was a small civilian ship. It didn't look like a threat to the galaxy. On the Wanderer, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. "Jake, I'm picking up multiple ships behind us," she said. "Big ones. Military class. They're moving fast." Jake felt his stomach tighten. The council had sent their fleet already. "How long until they catch us?" he asked. Lisa calculated quickly. "At their current speed, maybe 6 hours. But Jake, that's not all. I'm also detecting something strange in the star charts ahead of us." Danny leaned over from his navigation station. "She's right, Captain. The council maps show empty space in the sector we're heading toward. But my sensors are picking up something there. Like the maps have been changed to hide something." Jake made a decision. "Keep going forward. If the council is hiding something, that's exactly where we need to go." Karen came onto the bridge carrying medical supplies. "We need to be ready if they start shooting at us," she said. "I don't have enough equipment to handle major injuries for the whole crew." "They won't shoot," Jake said, though he wasn't sure if he believed it. "We're civilians. The council wouldn't attack unarmed people." Lisa gave him a worried look but said nothing. They both knew the council might do exactly that. Hours passed in tense silence. The crew took turns sleeping and eating, but no one could really rest. Everyone knew the fleet was getting closer. Then, without warning, another message came through on the same mysterious frequency as before. This time, The message was longer. You are not alone. Others have broken free. Follow the star pattern attached to this message. Do not trust the Council. They have lied about everything. The pioneer lives. Attached to the message was a set of coordinates that matched exactly with the strange readings Danny had found. It's a trap, said one of the crew members, a woman named Betty Ford who worked in engineering with Lisa. Maybe, Jake admitted. But what choice do we have? The Council fleet is behind us, and we can't outrun them forever. At least if we follow these coordinates, we might find answers. Behind them, more human ships had started leaving the restricted zone. The Council's sensors picked up ship after ship, all heading in different directions. Some went toward known alien colonies, others headed for unexplored space. But several ships were following the same path as the Wanderer. On the Council station, Kritok watched the reports with growing alarm. This was not a single rebel ship. This was a coordinated escape. Someone had been planning this for a long time. How many ships now? He demanded. Zeke's Thor's tentacles shook as he counted. 17 human vessels have left the restricted zone in the past 4 hours, Chairman. And we're detecting launch signatures from Earth itself. More ships are preparing to leave. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others argued for negotiation. A few brave voices suggested that maybe the restriction had been wrong from the beginning. Kritok raised his hand for silence. Enough. We cannot let this situation spiral out of control. I am authorizing Commander Velshar to use any means necessary to stop the human ships. The restriction must hold. But even as he spoke, Kritok felt doubt creeping into his mind. The restriction had been meant as a temporary measure. It was supposed to give the Council time to understand humans better. Instead, it had lasted for 150 years. Had they made a mistake? In the Judgment's Bridge, Velshar received the new orders. Any means necessary. That included lethal force. He read the message 3 times, his 4 hands gripping the edges of his command chair. Naltek approached him carefully. Commander, should we arm weapons? Velshar was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Arm weapons, but do not lock on target yet. We will try to communicate with them first. He opened a communication channel to the Wanderer. Human vessel, Wanderer. This is Commander Velshar of the Galactic Council fleet. You are ordered to stop your engines and prepare to be escorted back to the restricted zone. Comply immediately. On the Wanderer, Jake heard the message. He looked at his crew, then at the controls in front of him. Everything in his military training told him to follow orders from a superior force, but everything in his heart told him to keep going. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Wanderer, he responded. We respectfully decline your order. We are not criminals. We are free people seeking to explore space that belongs to everyone. We will not return to our cage. Velshar felt a strange sense of respect for the human's words. Captain Morrison, I have orders to bring you back by force if necessary. Please do not make me follow those orders. Think of your crew. I am thinking of my crew, Jake replied. I'm thinking that they deserve the same rights as every other species in the galaxy. The right to explore. The right to build new homes. The right to be free. Before Velshar could respond, his sensors officer called out. Commander, we're detecting a large object ahead of the human ship. It's a planet, but it's not on any of our maps. Velshar looked at the screen in surprise. There, in what was supposed to be empty space, was a world. A beautiful blue and green planet surrounded by orbital stations and ships. Human ships. The Wanderer was heading straight for it. And now Velshar could see that the planet was not just inhabited, it was thriving. There were cities on the surface, farms, industrial centers. This was not a new colony. This was an established human world that had been hidden from the Council for decades. By the ancestors, Naltek whispered. The humans have been out here all along. Lisa was laughing with joy on the Wanderer's bridge. Jake, we found it. We found the Pioneer. Look at what they've built. The planet grew larger on their screens as they approached. Jake felt tears in his eyes. The Pioneer had not been destroyed. The colony had survived and grown in secret, hidden from the Council all these years. A new voice came over their communication system. Wanderer, this is Haven Colony Control. Welcome home, travelers. Please follow the guidance beacon to Landing Zone 7. We've been expecting you. Jake smiled wider than he had in years. Haven Control, this is Captain Morrison. It's good to be home. The Wanderer landed softly on Haven's main spaceport. Through the windows, Jake and his crew could see a bustling city that stretched to the horizon. Human-made buildings stood next to strange structures that looked ancient and alien. Ships took off and landed constantly. People walked through the streets below, going about their daily lives. There must be 50,000 people here, Karen said in amazement. How did they keep this hidden for so long? The airlock opened, and a man walked up the ramp. He was older, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore simple clothes and had a warm smile on his face. Welcome to Haven, he said, extending his hand to Jake. I'm Ben Walsh. I was the first officer of the Pioneer when we left Earth 50 years ago. Now I'm the administrator of this colony. Jake shook his hand firmly. The Council told us the Pioneer was destroyed. They said everyone died in an engine failure. Ben's smile faded. The Council tells many lies, Captain Morrison. Come. Let me show you why we've stayed hidden all these years. You and your crew are about to learn the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. They walked through the city streets. The crew of the Wanderer stared in wonder at everything around them. They passed markets, selling food from Earth, and local crops grown in Haven's soil. Children played in parks. People worked in shops and offices. It looked like any human city, except for the strange ancient buildings scattered throughout. Ben led them to the largest of these structures, a massive pyramid made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. This is what we found when we first arrived on Haven. These ruins are everywhere on this planet. At first, we thought they were built by some extinct alien species. But then, Amy Chen, our chief archaeologist, made an incredible discovery. Inside the pyramid, the walls were covered in strange symbols and images. A young woman with black hair and excited eyes greeted them. This was Amy Chen. Welcome, Amy said. I've been studying these ruins for 20 years. What I've learned will change everything you think you know about humans and the galaxy. She pointed to a wall covered in carvings. The images showed tall beings that looked almost human, working alongside dozens of other alien species. The beings were building cities, creating technology, and spreading across the stars. These are the precursors, Amy explained. They were the first intelligent species in the galaxy. They appeared millions of years ago and built a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. They created most of the technology the Council uses today. They even helped guide the evolution of many species in the galaxy. Round. Some things are. End quote. What does this have to do with humans? Lisa asked. Amy smiled and pointed to another section of wall. There, carved in perfect detail, was the image of a human DNA strand. Next to it was the DNA of the precursors. They were almost identical. We are their descendants, Amy said quietly. Humans are the direct genetic heirs of the precursors. They seeded Earth millions of years ago, before they disappeared. The Council has known this truth for centuries. The room fell silent. Jake felt like the ground had disappeared under his feet. That's impossible. Why would the Council hide something like this? Ben stepped forward. Because the precursors created the Council species to be caretakers of the galaxy until their human descendants evolved and returned to the stars. The Council was never meant to rule. They were supposed to prepare the way for humanity. But over thousands of years, they grew comfortable with power. When humans finally developed space travel and made first contact, the Council panicked. They couldn't destroy us without breaking their most sacred laws, Amy added. The precursors built protection into the very foundations of Council law. But they could restrict us, keep us contained, hope that we would never learn the truth. Danny sat down heavily on a bench. So the quarantine wasn't about protecting the galaxy from dangerous humans. It was about protecting the Council's power from us. Exactly, Ben said. I learned this truth 30 years ago when I was working as a diplomat with the Council. I found old records that should have been destroyed. When I tried to tell Earth about it, the Council tried to kill me. The Pioneers' destruction was meant to be real, but we faked the explosion and escaped here instead. We've been growing in secret ever since, waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves. Above Haven, Commander Velshar's fleet arrived in orbit. He stared at the planet on his screens with confusion and wonder. This changed everything. The Council had lied to him. They had lied to everyone. Naltek checked the sensors. Commander, I'm detecting power signatures from those ancient structures on the surface. They're still active after all these years. Velshar opened a communication to the Council station. Chairman Krartok, we have found the human ship, but there's something you need to see. When Krartok appeared on the screen, his face went pale at the sight of the planet. Where are you? Commander, we followed the humans to an uncharted world, Velshar said. But according to my readings, this world is very much charted. In fact, it appears in ancient Council records under a forbidden designation. The humans have found a precursor world. Krartok's voice became hard. You will destroy that colony immediately, Commander. Those humans cannot be allowed to spread this information. For the first time in his career, Velshar questioned an order. Sir, there are 50,000 civilians down there. I cannot simply destroy an entire colony. You will follow orders, Krartok shouted. If the truth about the precursors and humanity spreads, it will destroy the Council's authority. Millions of years of order will collapse. You will fire on that planet, or I will find someone who will. Velshar ended the communication. He looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting to see what he would do. He thought about his years of service, his oaths of loyalty, but he also thought about what was right. On Haven's surface, Ben received an urgent message. Jake, the Council fleet is preparing to attack. We need to evacuate as many people as we can. But Amy had a different idea. She ran to a control panel built into the pyramid wall. Wait, these ruins aren't just monuments. They're technology. The precursors built defense systems into their worlds. If I can activate them. Her fingers moved across the ancient controls. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pyramid began to glow with blue light. That light spread to the other ancient structures across the planet. In orbit, massive platforms that had appeared to be dead satellites suddenly came to life. On the Judgment's bridge, alarms screamed warnings. Velshar watched in amazement as the ancient defense grid activated. Energy shields surrounded the planet. Weapon platforms that had been dormant for millions of years powered up and locked onto his fleet. Commander, those weapons are targeting us, Naltek shouted. Their power readings are beyond anything in our database. Velshar made his decision. Stand down. Do not fire. All ships. Move to a safe distance from the planet. But even as he gave the order, he saw new ships appearing on his sensors. Human ships from Earth had just arrived in the system. Dozens of them. And at their head was Earth's entire defense fleet, led by a massive battleship. The communication came through. Council forces. This is Admiral Kate Brooks of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are ordered to withdraw from Haven immediately. We will protect our people. Velshar knew he was outnumbered and outgunned. The ancient weapons alone could destroy his fleet. Add the human military, and he had no chance. But more importantly, he no longer wanted to fight. "Admiral Brooks," he responded. "I am Commander Velshar. I am withdrawing my forces. I have no wish to harm civilians. But I warn you, the Council will not accept this. They will send a much larger fleet." "Let them come," Kate replied. "Humanity will not run and hide anymore. We're done being prisoners." As Velshar's fleet moved away from the planet, Ben stood with Jake on Haven's surface, watching the ships in orbit. "This is just the beginning," Ben said. "The Council will not give up their power easily. War is coming," Jake nodded. "Then, we'll be ready. We've been waiting 150 years for this moment. We're not backing down now." 3 days after Velshar's fleet withdrew, the Council sent their response. It came not as words, but as an armada. 200 warships jumped into the Haven system, led by War Minister Korvax himself. His species, the Draxel, had always been the most aggressive members of the Council. They believed in ruling through strength and fear. On Haven, alarms blared across every settlement. Jake stood in the command center next to Ben and Admiral Kate Brooks. They watched the massive fleet take position around the planet. "They're not here to talk," Kate said grimly. She had brought 40 ships from Earth, but they were outnumbered 5-1. "We need to evacuate civilians now." "There's no time," Ben replied. "And where would they go?" "This is our home." A communication came through from Korvax's flagship. His face appeared on the screen, showing sharp teeth and red eyes that burned with anger. "Humans of Haven, you have 1 hour to surrender. Power down your defenses and prepare to be taken into custody. If you refuse, we will destroy your colony and every ship in orbit." Jake stepped forward. "War Minister Korvax, we are not your enemies. We are simply people trying to live freely. The Council has no right to keep us imprisoned." "You have no rights," Korvax roared. "You are a contaminated species that threatens the order of the galaxy. The Council has decided you must be controlled or eliminated. You have 59 minutes. The communication ended. Jake felt rage building inside him. After everything they had learned about the precursors and humanity's true heritage, the Council still treated them like animals to be caged. "We fight," Admiral Kate said. "My fleet will engage the enemy. The defense platforms might give us a chance, but Danny, who had been working with Amy on the precursor systems, had another idea. "Captain, Dr. Chen has found something in the ruins. You need to see this." They ran to the main pyramid, where Amy was working frantically at the ancient controls. The walls glowed with symbols that were shifting and changing. "The precursors left more than just weapons," Amy explained. "They left a communication network that spans the entire galaxy. If I can activate it, we can broadcast the truth about humanity's heritage to every world at once. The Council won't be able to hide it anymore." "How long do you need?" Jake asked. 20 minutes to activate. But Jake, there's a problem. The system requires massive power. When I turn it on, the defense shields will drop. We'll be vulnerable." Ben shook his head. "We can't drop our shields with that fleet in orbit. They'll destroy us immediately." "And?" Jake looked at the countdown timer. 43 minutes until Korvax's deadline. He made the hardest decision of his life. Do it. Drop the shields and send the broadcast. If we die here, at least the truth will survive. Admiral Kate grabbed his arm. "Jake, my people will die defending this planet." "I know," Jake said quietly. "But this is bigger than us. This is about every human who comes after us. They deserve to know the truth." Kate studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "All ships. This is Admiral Brooks. Prepare for combat. Protect that planet with everything you have." In orbit, the human fleet moved into defensive positions. They were military ships, but most were old designs from before the restriction. They had courage, but not the firepower, to match the Council's armada. Commander Velshar watched from a distance in his single ship. He had refused to leave the system, even though the Council had ordered him back. He wanted to see how this would end. When he saw the human fleet preparing to fight against impossible odds, he felt something he had never experienced before. Admiration. He opened a private channel to his old crew on other Council ships. "This is Velshar. The Council is wrong. These humans are not our enemies. They are fighting for the same freedom our ancestors fought for millions of years ago. I will not stand by and watch them die for telling the truth." On his sensor screen, he saw something that made his heart soar. 7 Council ships broke formation and moved to join the human fleet. His former crew members had listened. They were defecting. Korvax saw the defection and screamed in rage. "All ships, open fire! Destroy the traitors and the human colony!" The battle began with fire and thunder. Council ships launched missiles and energy beams toward Haven. The human fleet threw themselves into the path, taking hits meant for the planet. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Men and women died protecting their home. On Haven's surface, Steve Parker led a company of Marines preparing for ground assault. He was a big man with a scar across his face from an old training accident. "If they get through the fleet, we fight them on the ground. Every street, every building. We make them pay for every inch." His Marines checked their weapons and nodded. They were ready to die if necessary. In the pyramid, Amy worked desperately to activate the broadcast system. The symbols on the walls moved faster and faster as power built up in the ancient technology. "Almost there," she whispered. "Just another minute." Above, the battle raged. Admiral Kate's flagship took a direct hit and lost its main engines. Kate grabbed onto her chair as the ship spun out of control. "Damage report. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. We're venting atmosphere," her officer reported. "Seal those decks. Route all power to weapons. We're not done yet," Kate ordered. A Council ship moved in to finish them off, but suddenly, it exploded. Velshar's ship had joined the battle, his weapons tearing through the Council vessel's shields. "This is Commander Velshar to all human ships," he broadcast. "I stand with you. For truth. For freedom. For what is right." More Council ships began to defect. Dozens of them turned their weapons on Korvax's fleet. The War Minister watched in horror as his own forces betrayed him. "You fools," he screamed. "You're throwing away thousands of years of order for these primitives." But his words fell on deaf ears. Too many Council members had been waiting for someone to stand up to the corrupt leadership. Velshar had given them that courage. On Haven, the pyramid suddenly blazed with light so bright it could be seen from space. Amy stepped back from the controls, exhausted. "It's done. The broadcast is active. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, every communication device suddenly displayed the same message. Images from the precursor ruins, showing humanity's connection to the ancient builders, the genetic evidence. The Council's lies, exposed for all to see. Amy had included everything they had discovered. The broadcast couldn't be stopped or blocked. The precursors had built their technology to be impossible to interfere with. Within minutes, trillions of beings across the galaxy knew the truth. On the Council station, Krytok watched his entire political career collapse in real time. His fellow Council members were already calling for his resignation. Some were calling for his arrest. The lies had been revealed, and there was no going back. In orbit around Haven, Korvax realized he had lost. Half his fleet had defected. The other half was being destroyed by the combined human and rebel forces. And now the entire galaxy knew what the Council had done. "Retreat," he ordered. "All loyal ships, jump to safety." The remaining Council ships, loyal to Korvax, fled the system. The battle was over. Haven had survived. Jake walked out of the pyramid and looked up at the sky. He could see the explosions fading, the enemy ships running away. They had won. Humanity had won. But the cost had been terrible. 15 human ships had been destroyed. Over 3,000 people had died in the battle. Kate's flagship was crippled. Bodies floated in space around the planet. Lisa came and stood next to him, taking his hand. "We did it," she said softly. "The galaxy knows the truth now." "Yeah," Jake replied. "But now comes the hard part. We have to figure out what happens next." 2 weeks after the Battle of Haven, a ship arrived at the neutral station of Teal Mora. This ancient station had been built by the precursors themselves and had served as a place for peace talks for millions of years. Now, it would host the most important meeting in galactic history. Jake Morrison walked through the station's corridors with Lisa and Ben by his side. He wore a simple uniform with no military decorations, just the patch of earth on his shoulder. They passed aliens from dozens of species, all of whom stared at the humans with curiosity and wonder. "I still can't believe we're doing this," Lisa whispered. "Negotiating with the entire Galactic Council. Like equals." "We are equals," Ben reminded her. "We always were. They just didn't want to admit it." The meeting chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle so that no one position was more important than another. Already seated were representatives from hundreds of species. At the center sat Kratok, though his position as chairman was clearly uncertain. Many council members refused to even look at him. Across from the council seats sat the human delegation. Admiral Kate Brooks was there, her arm in a sling from injuries in the battle. Commander Velshar stood with them, having formally resigned from the council military to serve as an advisor to humanity. Amy Chen was present as well, carrying data tablets filled with precursor research. The most surprising person in the room was Tierna, a member of the council who had revealed herself as a secret human supporter. She had been feeding information to Ben's colony for years, helping them stay hidden. Now, she stood openly with the humans. "Let this session begin," announced the station's AI in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The Galactic Council and representatives of humanity are here to discuss the future of our galaxy." Kratok stood slowly. He looked older than he had 2 weeks ago. The weight of his mistakes showed in his eyes. "I will speak first, as is my right as chairman, though I acknowledge that right may soon be taken from me." He turned to face Jake and the other humans. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer my deepest apologies. 150 years ago, we made a decision based on fear. We told ourselves it was for the safety of the galaxy. But the truth is, we were protecting our own power. We have committed a terrible crime against your species." Some council members shifted uncomfortably. Others nodded in agreement. Korvax was notably absent, having been arrested for ordering the attack on Haven without full council approval. Kratok continued. "The evidence presented by Dr. Chen proves beyond doubt that humans are the genetic descendants of the precursors. By our own most ancient laws, you should have been welcomed as honored guests and given full rights from the moment of first contact. Instead, we imprisoned you. For this, there can be no excuse." Jake stood to respond. He had practiced this speech 100 times, but now that the moment was here, the words felt different. "Chairman Kratok, we appreciate your apology, but apologies alone cannot undo 150 years of injustice. Generations of humans lived and died, never knowing the stars beyond their own sun." The chamber was silent. Every being present knew that humanity would be justified in demanding almost anything as compensation. "However," Jake continued, "we did not fight and die at Haven so we could seek revenge. We fought for freedom. We fought for truth. And we fought so that no species would ever be treated the way we were treated." He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as he could. "We propose a new galactic order, one where the Council serves all species equally, not just those it deems worthy. One where truth is valued over comfort, and where freedom is a right, not a privilege granted by the powerful." "Known." Admiral Kate stood next to him. We also demand the immediate release of all restrictions on human movement and activity. We will settle new worlds. We will explore uncharted space. We will take our place among the stars as the precursors intended. Any species that tries to stop us will face the consequences. And, Ben added, we demand that the Council's archives be opened to public review. All the secrets, all the hidden history, everything the Council has kept from the galaxy must be revealed. A council member from a species called the Yintari stood up. These demands are reasonable, but they do not address the core problem. If the Council is to be reformed, we need new leadership. Leadership that the galaxy can trust. Kurtok nodded slowly. I agree. I hereby resign as chairman of the Galactic Council, effective immediately. I also propose that the position of chairman be abolished. Instead, let the council be led by a rotating assembly of representatives from all member species, including humanity. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some council members objected to such radical change. Others argued it didn't go far enough. But slowly, a consensus began to form. The old system was broken. Something new was needed. Tierna stepped forward. I propose that Commander Velshar and Captain Jake Morrison serve as co-directors of the first Reformed Council Assembly. Velshar represents the best of what the Council military can be. Honorable and just. Morrison represents humanity's courage and determination. Together, they can guide us through this transition. Velshar looked shocked. I am not a politician. I am a soldier. I am a soldier, which is exactly why you're perfect for this. Tierna replied. We need leaders who care more about doing what's right than holding on to power. Tierna. Jake shook his head. I appreciate the honor, but I'm an explorer, not a ruler. However, I will accept if Commander Velshar agrees to serve as my advisor and partner in this. We'll do it together for one term, to help set up the new system. Then we'll step down and let others lead. Velshar thought about it, then nodded. One term. To fix what was broken. Then, I returned to my ship. The vote was held immediately. The results were overwhelming. The new Reformed Council was approved, with Velshar and Jake as its first co-directors. The restrictions on humanity were officially ended, and the Council archives would be opened for full public review within 30 days. As the meeting ended, species from across the galaxy approached the human delegation. Some offered apologies. Others offered trade agreements and alliances. Many simply wanted to meet the species they had heard so much about but never been allowed to know. A young alien from a species called the Fenri approached Lisa shyly. Excuse me, but is it true that humans can eat almost any organic matter? We have stories that say you can survive on almost any world. Lisa smiled. Well, we're pretty adaptable. Give us time, and we can figure out how to live almost anywhere. Only. The young alien's eyes widened with wonder. That's amazing. The precursors gave you an incredible gift. Over the next months, the galaxy changed rapidly. Human colony ships launched toward dozens of new worlds. Haven became a center for precursor research, with scientists from hundreds of species coming to study the ancient ruins. The Council archives revealed thousands of secrets, some wonderful and some terrible, but all important. Steve Parker and his Marines became instructors, teaching other species about human military tactics and strategies. Many were surprised to learn that human strength came not from superior weapons, but from adaptability and creative thinking. Danny Price became one of the youngest ambassadors in history, representing Earth at council meetings and charming aliens with his enthusiasm and honesty. Karen Mills opened a medical exchange program, sharing human medical knowledge with alien doctors and learning from them in return. She discovered that human medicine, developed in isolation, had some unique techniques that could help other species. Admiral Kate Brooks rebuilt Earth's defense fleet, But this time not as a force of isolation but as protectors of peace. Human ships patrolled trade routes, rescued ships in distress, and explored dangerous regions of space that other species feared. 6 months after the Battle of Haven, Jake and Lisa stood on the bridge of the Wanderer once again. The ship had been repaired and upgraded with both human and alien technology. They were preparing to lead the first joint human-alien exploration mission into truly uncharted space. Velshar came aboard to see them off. He and Jake had become close friends during their time running the council together. Their term was almost over, and both were eager to return to their real passions. "You're really going to explore the far reaches?" Velshar asked. "The council has a dozen missions that could use your skills." Jake smiled. "Let the next leaders handle those missions. Lisa and I did what we needed to do. We helped change the galaxy. Now we want to see what's out there beyond the edge of known space. We're taking a mixed crew," Lisa added. "Humans, Kresh, Yintari, even a few Valari like Kurtok used to be. It's going to be an adventure." Velshar nodded with understanding. "I envy you. But someone needs to make sure the reforms we started actually continue. Naltek and I will keep things running here." "You'll do great," Jake said, shaking his friend's hand. "Just remember, the goal isn't to control the galaxy. It's to help everyone in it thrive." As Velshar left the ship, Ben came aboard with Amy. They were joining the expedition as well, eager to search for more precursor sites. "Ready to go?" Ben asked with a grin that made him look 20 years younger. "More than ready," Jake replied. The Wanderer lifted off from Haven's spaceport, joining the fleet of ships waiting in orbit. There were human vessels and alien ones, all preparing to journey into the unknown together. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving known space behind, Jake thought about everything that had happened. Humanity had broken free from their cage. They had fought for their right to exist as equals. They had changed the entire galaxy, but this wasn't the end of the story. This was just the beginning. Lisa took his hand and smiled. "You know, I heard there's a whole region of space in the galactic south that's never been explored. Something about dangerous radiation fields that keep everyone away." "Sounds perfect," Jake said. "Let's go see what we can find." The Wanderer and its sister ships disappeared into the vast darkness of space, carrying hope, courage, and the unstoppable human spirit to places no one had ever seen before. Behind them, the galaxy they had helped reshape continued to change and grow. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars, and the stars would never be the same.